Hello and welcome to the Non-Aggression Podcast, a show produced entirely by North American students who love liberty. My name is Asher Bookestein,
Hello, Vibo
and
here.
Hi, Marcella.
Hi, my name is Lamar.
for those of you who were here last time, welcome back. If you're not familiar with us yet, Students for Liberty is a worldwide organization giving young adults the tools to fight for peace, limited government, free speech, and free markets. In this podcast, we're going to talk about a lot of different topics, but especially we'd like to introduce you to Lamar. She's a very special guest, and she's done a lot. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the things you've been doing the last few years, Lamar?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Lamar Zalogron, and I'm originally from Afghanistan. Grew up and raised in Afghanistan. For the past 5 or 6 years, I have been actively advocating for Afghan women, education, youth. In Afghanistan, I have closely worked with Afghan women and young girls in Afghanistan, providing them education. Before our government collapsed, when there was U.S. invasion in Afghanistan, I used to provide um, uh, in-person schooling in schools and high school campuses and university campuses for these young women to kind of boost their educational skills and provide them resources so they should be more educated enough. And we were providing them classes in English language because our quality of education wasn't good. So my organization, Empowering Afghan Women, which basically I'm the founder and president of Empowering Afghan Women in Afghanistan, and we still work in Afghanistan. During those times, we were providing them extra classes, graphic designing, help them with their career development. But after the government collapsed, we started to work remotely, both which was virtually, which we worked both in person and online, and providing them education classes, all these resources. And I used to be a columnist for the Spiegel newspaper for a year. And I was writing columns from Kabul to Berlin covering Afghanistan, challenges women face in Afghanistan, and my own personal journey. Well, after that, I was basically talking with world leaders on the situation of Afghanistan, informing all the people all around the globe about what's happening in Afghanistan and how can the EU or the United States or the rest of the world can help Afghan women at this situation. And basically, I have done a lot of stuff. It wasn't like running my own non-profit, but actively through these years, through the past 6 or 7 years, I have been actively speaking on podcasts. I was a columnist for the Spiegel newspaper, and then a UN youth representative, which I was supposed to make awareness and represent youth voices around the globe. And basically, I have spoken multiple times at the United Nations platform about Afghan women, youth, and how can the international community support Afghan women at this situation in terms of education resources, humanitarian aid, uh, and do not forget Afghan women, which is the important stuff nowadays the international community can do to do not forget. And we keep reminding the world to do not forget Afghan women. So basically, I have spoken 3 times at the United Nations. First time it was International Youth Day, which I spoke together with the President of General Assembly and representative of Malta Mission. And second time I spoke, it was the co-hosted event that was co-hosted by multiple countries mission. And I spoke about Afghan women and youth. And last time it was a session that was hosted by Princeton University Public Policy, Georgetown Women Peace and Security, and Harvard Women College Center, and multiple countries mission that hosted this event. And again, I spoke about youth education for Afghan women and how can we, change this education, especially online education, because after the collapse of government, we all started to provide online education in exile for these women. And so in the past 6 or 7 years, I have been speaking on. I have joined multiple campaigns. I have spoken on multiple international organization platform to kind of make awareness about Afghan women and do my best to represent them, because I escaped Afghanistan in 2022 and I lived under the Taliban for a year, and I know how it feels to be in an oppressive regime, in an
Wow.
autocratic regime. And I wouldn't even call it an authoritarian regime, because they are kind of, it's both authoritarian and at the same time dictatorship as well. But we know them more than just an authoritarian. They are just a terrorist group. Our country is running by a terrorist group.
That's awful. Why don't you tell us a little bit what it was like growing up as an Afghan young girl? Like what was it like? What are your memories of growing up under something like that?
When there was U.S. and Afghanistan, we all felt safe, especially in the cities. We all grew up with a normal life. There's a lot of misconceptions about Afghanistan during these 2 decades. People thought that, of course, we were living under the war. Every day we were facing bomb blasts, and I'm also survival of one of the bomb blasts that happened near to our school.
That doesn't
Um,
sound very normal to me.
yeah,
But I
but
guess it was normal for you.
it was absolutely normal for me and the rest of the people over there because still development were happening, and we had all these like tall large buildings, we had fancy restaurants, we were going out with jeans, and wearing a jean was so normal for us. Wearing high heels, when growing up in Afghanistan, we all as a woman, we were much more active in society in terms of like civic activities. We were doing civil rights activities, and more importantly, we were going to schools and we were joining this labor force. And there was of course harassment. We faced a lot of harassment in both public places and government official places, but still, we were continuing our life, we were still continuing our fight. It wasn't like, full democracy for us, but still we were somehow enjoying our right. And me I mean we had the right to enjoy our rights. But there was a time that we lost all these rights. And growing up in Afghanistan, when I was 5 or 6 years old, I didn't have any idea about war, or I didn't have any idea about bomb blasts. When I was in my first or second grade, one day I asked my father that why these people are killing us. What's our guilt, or why? What have we done wrong that they are killing us? So my father, he didn't have any response for me. He said they're just a bad guys, and later when you grow up, you would realize why they are killing us. And later, when I reached to a stage where I could notice what's wrong and right, and which one is my right and left hand, I started to realize, I started to understand that these people are just killing us just because we want to continue education, just because we want to go outside and work and enjoy all our rights, and you're not living in a full Islamic regime. And they had some kind of like propaganda that was created by some of radical Muslims in our neighborhoods or in some Muslim countries. They were taught, or they were indoctrinated, or basically they were brainwashed that US invaded our country, and they are kind of, increasing the idea of Western ideologies, and they are using women. They were literally creating wokeness in the country, which wasn't true. We the only difference between before the Taliban, pre-Taliban, and post-Taliban was the before the Taliban we were just wearing a scarf and going out with jeans and everything with jeans or maybe makeup. But after the Taliban, when they come to the power, they amplified full, what we call, full hijab or full burqa on us, covering head to toe. But before the Taliban, I mean, we had women who hold ministerial position. We had women in the parliament. Uh, we had women in sports and legal issues. We had women as attorneys. We had women as lawyers. Women were involved in singing, going out, and uh, like they could do everything. Uh, and there wasn't any obstacles for us. There was like some obstacle for us as well in terms of culture and society norms. We had those kind of obstacles, but at least we were living in a government that they could provide us and save us from all these, our natural rights. And especially under the U.S. invasion, we felt safe. We felt that the West, or the rest of the world still stand for us. So yeah, this was our feeling as an Afghan woman while growing up in Afghanistan. I finished my school in Afghanistan, and I finished my high school in Afghanistan. Later, I joined the American University of Afghanistan. It was one of the top liberal art college of Afghanistan, from United States in Afghanistan, that was supported directly by the U.S. Embassy. And during that time, I mean, uh, I mean, when we went to American University of Afghanistan, we felt that we actually going to United States campus. I mean, it wasn't like it was all absolutely similar to the campuses like here.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about um like explain a little bit about this conflict that you're talking about? So is this like terrorism um like just can you just provide a little bit of context for this terrorism and kind of how things changed?
Well, I mean, terrorism is something that their main they always like they they always like follow some ideologies. It's very difficult to understand terrorism.
Sure.
uh, when there was Soviet Union and Afghanistan before the 90s. um and always like my parents, they were telling me how communism was bad in our country, and how we all lived in another oppressive regime, and
Hmm.
our voices were silenced, and we never wanted to be invaded by a foreign country. And they
Hmm.
were trying to impose the ideology of communism in the country. But
This
basically,
who is this? The government
well, the government was
was trying to be communist.
the government the government was running by the Soviet Union. So
Okay.
our leader, our president, were almost the representative of Soviet Union. The same thing that's happening in Turkmenistan. So they're influenced
Mm.
by Soviet Union, by Russia, not Soviet Union. But at that time, all our policies were influenced by Soviet Union. Our leaders were chosen by Soviet Union. As far as I read history, and as far as my parents, they taught me how bad was Soviet Union in our country, and how bad was communism. So I remember my father, he was telling me that he also arrested during that time when he was a young person. He was arrested by the Soviets, by the communists, and for speaking up against communism. But
Mm.
basically, after that, a lot of our people, they displaced in Pakistan. And it was the best time for radical Muslims in Pakistan, and by the government itself. So they were sending some books there. As far as I have done my research, and my family, they were an immigrant in Pakistan too, and they were telling me how bad it was to live in Pakistan as a refugee. And it's always bad. I mean, now, even now in Iran and Pakistan, they they deported thousands of immigrants back to Afghanistan, and it
Mm.
includes women and children. And they even arrest them. They treat them badly. They even in Iran, they even killed Afghan refugees. It's the same thing. During these 40 years, we have been refugees in both in our neighborhood, Iran and Pakistan, and they always treated us
Mm.
badly. They always treated us like a slave. At that time in Pakistan, these Pakistan government, or what we call Pakistan radical schools, they were sending these books, which basically it used some of the tourism tools, for instance, tourism weapons, and they were using words, for instance, meme for M for mujahid, which means a holy warrior, or those kind of books. It's still available if you search online. If you go and look at the resources, these books are still it's still recorded as a tool of terrorism. So this is how terrorism started in Afghanistan, and they started to found the school of Taliban. So there were two different groups who were fighting against the Taliban during that time. One was so we have multiple ethnicities in Afghanistan. We have the first majority is Pashtun, and the second majority is Tajik. So during that time, there was Tajik who were running against Soviet Union, who were fighting against Soviet Union, and they were uh, trying to, kind of like use. They were fighting with the weapons, so it was not not something to fight through protest. So it was more like a physical fight. I mean, it was more like using weapons and those kind of stuff. So there was one Tajik, and there was another one who was Pashtun. The Pashtun were basically Taliban, and they were also fighting with the Taliban, against the Soviet Union. Sorry. So this was the time that if you ever watch Charles Wilson movie, this is how Pakistan informed the United States that there's a larger number of Afghan refugees in Pakistan, and you need to do something. So the US started to advocate for the increase of the budget to fund both these holy saviors, these holy warriors, to fight against Soviet Union. So this is was but basically Pakistan first founded Taliban members. They have been receiving all their education in Pakistan, and this is how Osama bin Laden and a lot of chief members or leaders of the Taliban were even sometimes they were killed in Pakistan because during 2 decades of war and after the U.S. invasion, they were always going to Pakistan and taking shelter. So Pakistan has been the main concern of terrorism for both
Hmm.
regions, for both Afghanistan and India. And this is how India also started the war because we are all tired of terrorism by these countries. And during these 2 decades, they were also supported by Iran as well. So Iran had a big hand, or they were also a main supporter of Taliban. So still, like Pakistan, they are still like I remember after 2021 when Afghanistan was invaded by the Taliban. I remember in Pakistan, a lot of radical Muslims they started to celebrate this occasion, and for us,
Hmm.
it was such a disappointment moment. It was very hard for us to see our fellow Muslim. They are happy that we are being killed every day in our country. So after that, then first the holy warrior they come into the power, and then after that it was thrown out by the Taliban, and then the Taliban come into power in 90s. So all their policies. So Pakistan is literally all their policies are influenced by Pakistan basically.
Hmm. So this is really interesting. I kind of want to hear. I kind of want to learn a little bit more from an additional angle. So this is a North American podcast, and a lot of
Mhm.
our viewers are going to be from the United States. And the United States occupied your country for the majority of your life. I would say. I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know how old you are if you were born before 2001 or anything like that. But so there
I was
must have
born after 2001,
after okay
after 9/11.
afterward. So before you were born, we had U.S. troops on the ground in Afghanistan. How did you feel? How did your family and your community feel about not just like Operation Enduring Freedom, but just about like U.S. troops occupying your country in general? What was that attitude like?
Well, for the first time when U.S. Troops invaded Afghanistan, when they occupied Afghanistan or when they conquered Afghanistan, to be honest, my family they felt very happy that U.S. is back there in Afghanistan, and they were the one who kind of spread the ideology or who spread the values of democracy in my country, and we were
Mm.
always happy that U.S. was there in Afghanistan. There's a lot of misconception about the US. People thought that they did bad stuff, especially the radical Muslims. But trust me, I lived under the US invasion and under the US occupied democracy valued for 2 decades. US they invested a lot of billions of dollars on our education. They invested billions of
Mm.
dollars for Fulbright scholarship. A lot of our young people during these 2 decades, they went to abroad. They come to the United States for Fulbright scholarship. They have completed their education and they went back to the country to run the country and to help to even serve back to their country. So during these 2 decades, they have done a lot of investments on young people like us. They have built roads for us. Uh, they have helped us in our election. They even help us in rebuilding our nation. So they were basically there to rebuild our education, to rebuild our um, government, and then create this ideology of education. When for the first time when the US will come there to Afghanistan, they started the move or a move from both the United States and the United Nations going back to school, which was one of the
Mm.
main important stuff of the United States and United Nations that they did in Afghanistan. And trust me, United States and US troops they faced a lot of challenges in these 2 decades. I mean, a lot of people they started to question them that they kind of like destroyed Afghanistan, but I don't believe that they were there to destroy my country. They helped a lot in rebuilding our nation. The only people who destroyed my country was, of course, our neighborhoods who sent tourists for us, and also our corrupt leaders because there was like a huge number of corruption in our country, and even the US high level officials they were even tired of hearing back and forth about the corruption in my country. I mean, sometimes I even like when I said with myself and I think for a moment, I started to believe that why my country people like even if somebody come to them and they would be like, hey, this is the money for you, hey, this is the weapon for you, go destroy your road, would you do that as citizen of your country? If you are a citizen of your country, I mean, if you are a US citizen or if you are a Brazilian citizen, would you go and destroy your road, education, and kill your people? No. Why should I go and kill my people just because of few corrupt officials? Just because there's
Hmm.
corruption, just because justice are not provided for you, it doesn't mean that you would go and kill innocent people. So this something was done in these 2 decades. Radical Muslims from both Pakistan and Iran, they were coming to Afghanistan to indoctrinate these young people and show themselves as charismatic figures that you should go and kill your people just because your country is invaded by the United States. Um, I mean, in these 2 decades, there was a lot of good things happening. I mean, they help a lot in rebuilding our country, and helping us to kind of grow in our country. And there was a lot of development that happened in Afghanistan in
Hmm.
these 2 decades, because of the help of the United States. I mean, we were living such a privileged life, and like while we were sleeping in our houses, they were there and they were fighting against terrorism, basically. I mean, it was even difficult for them whenever I spoke with US troops advisor and US troops. They were telling us how difficult it is to recognize a terrorist who were coming there and fighting in countryside of Afghanistan, for instance, Kandahar and Helmand. And they even like even US troops, they have lost like 5,000 or 6,000 of your troops, their troops, or even 10,000. I don't know the exact statistic of how many troops they have lost, but it was difficult for them as well to pack their clothes and come back and provide democracy and build another country, provide safety for their people. And it was difficult for them as well to kind of notice who is the Afghan citizen or who is the tourist in those kind of
Yeah.
like conflict regions.
Yeah. I mean, so it sounds like what you're saying, it's complicated. It also seems like you yourself, I got the impression, are grateful in a sense for the U.S. occupation, but a lot of a lot of people here feel
Yes.
like it was a lot of money spent and a lot of lives lost that didn't really feel like it accomplished anything. Um, how do you feel about that? In a succinct way, how would you answer that idea that the U.S. occupation didn't really accomplish anything? How would you put that?
I mean, the U.S. occupation accomplished a lot of things. Thousands of young people in Afghanistan, thousands of women were empowered. I mean,
Hmm.
if you could see now in those people who were so after the after so listen, in these 2 decades, if you look at the literacy of Afghanistan, in these 2 decades, it's much more higher than now. After the U.S., I
Okay.
told you the same example of the back to school movement when the U.S. and
Yeah.
the United Nations come to Afghanistan. They invested a lot of money on democracy. They invested a lot of money to kind of like build our buildings for democracy, and they built a lot of schools in Afghanistan. And after
That's
that,
great.
they invested a lot of money on education sectors, both in universities and schools. And I am the main example of United Nations invasion. I was a member of American University of Afghanistan. I was a student there, and this university, United States, they invested like billions of dollars each year in our college, and
Hmm.
each year they empowered and they created the next leaders of Afghanistan. But after the collapse of the United States, after the collapse of our previous government, we could see a larger number of brain drain in the country. We lost a lot of intellectuals. They moved abroad,
Hmm.
and some of our intellectuals were killed by the Taliban. And imagine they also invested a lot of money for the war. I mean, for the war, everything that you could see in war. I mean, training the troops. They have invested a lot of money in training our own Afghan government troops, and it wasn't difficult. It was difficult for United States troops as well. Sometimes they were even killed by our own fellow troops, our own fellow army, when they were sharing the same headquarter with them. So I would say the money went in the right way, and now a lot of our young people, they are now in US. They're even in exile. They're in the best colleges of United States. They're in Harvard. They're in the top colleges of United States just because of the US investment in Afghanistan. And those
Hmm.
investments, it never wasted. I could see that in a right way. I mean, in building my country. in empowering Afghan women, in empowering children, in empowering those young men. So basically, it's never to start. If you want to change a society, if you want to create this kind of this ideology of modernization and civilization, you need to first educate the man there, because the man are the first, they are always the man, or they have a big hand in empowering a woman. If you want to educate a family, it's better that you should educate a man first in that family, because
Hmm.
the man can always support their woman. So in these 20 years, they not only educated in our own Afghan woman, but they also educated those young men as well, so they should be the big supporter of Afghan woman.
Yeah, I mean, tying back into that, so there a big part of the liberty movement is focusing on the individual human rights of all people and how all people should be treated the same. Was that something that attracted you to the liberty movement? Kind of having that experience of lacking human rights in that way?
Well, yes, basically, I mean, uh, while I was there in Afghanistan, I was always improved by the liberty movements, and I was the one who joined this liberty movement after the Taliban occupation. Even before the
Mm.
Taliban occupation, I was a member of the peace movement process, which we reminded the people, we reminded our government officials when they are dealing with the Taliban in Doha negotiation, when they are going and sitting in the same table with Taliban officials, they should remind them that they shouldn't, forget. So basically, we were there to remind them that they shouldn't forget our rights. As a young person in the country, as a young individual in the country, when the Taliban come into the power, they shouldn't forget our basic full rights in the country. So I was always attracted by the ideologies of liberty, to kind of have uh, full freedom in the society, especially in an oppressive regime of Afghanistan, and have the right to assembly, to do peaceful protests in the country, and have the right to go and to continue our education, especially for women. It's very hard to go out and talk about those kind of ideologies. In my society, it's considered a taboo. I mean, it's still considered a taboo. I'm an activist. I have been speaking openly against the Taliban in these 5 or 6 years, and a lot of people in society, they don't like me because I'm just an outgoing person and I spoke openly. I share my thoughts. I share my opinion about liberty and liberty movements. So for me, liberty, it means that to have the right of free speech, to have the right to press, so I could share my opinion openly. I could talk whatever it is in back of my head and share it openly to you and other people, even to my government, which I cannot do that now under the Taliban, and even other people, other young women or other even man, they cannot speak under the Taliban. And freedom
Mm.
of expression, it really matters. I mean, even freedom of expression, I can wear whatever I want in my society, whether I want to have my scarf or whether I want to take off my scarf, whether I want to have my full burqa or whether I want to take off my full burqa. It's up to me, actually. It's my individual choice, and my government and everybody in the society, they should respect my individual choice.
Mm.
And of course, I mean, the right to even like represent my country, go and become a government official or work in the politics. It's my right to represent my people, to represent my district, which cannot be done in Afghanistan. At the meantime, I can go and work. I cannot do that in Afghanistan. I mean, I can.
Mm.
Every even woman cannot work in Afghanistan, and as we believe, the majority of women are the breadwinners of their families. But at this time, this famine happening in Afghanistan, higher rate of inflation, and we don't have like an open market. We don't have we don't have economic opennesses. I mean, it's already Afghanistan is already sanctioned, and we are dealing with a lot of stuff, especially in terms of economic reasons. I mean, our standard of living are much more lower, and our country is considered as one of the lowest happiness nation in the world. Um, because economy is always related to the happiness, as we know. If you're an economic major, as I'm an economic major as well, when we study and when we measure economy, we also connected with the happiness too. I mean, Afghanistan is now one of the least happy country in the world, and that's because of economic reasons too.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds so
And we
kind
have
of
a poor healthcare too. Like all our
yeah.
intellectuals, our all our great doctors after the Taliban invasion, they all left the country.
It's crazy
That's
how this lack of freedom also drives away innovation and brilliant people that could be working and contributing to society. I was talking to Lamar another day about the situation in Afghanistan and how they prohibited women from studying and working. And I'm also part of this organization where we teach African women English so they can get scholarships abroad and they can actually learn
Hmm.
because they're forbidden in their country. And I had students that were doctors, lawyers, they're brilliant students, and they cannot contribute to their own society, their own country, because their own government, their own regime don't let them leave their homes basically, or even work or study. And she also mentioned how they um, prohibit women from having male doctors, so they do not let women be doctors, but they do not let them be treated by doctors, by male doctors. So it's
something
crazy.
doesn't add up there. Something there's a missing piece. It's not quite fitting together.
So they
Yeah.
have like a,
Oh,
I mean, it's a woman phobia. I mean, when I was there in Afghanistan, when I was talking with them, sometimes maybe I would just go and ask them a question. They didn't look at my eyes. I mean, I was basically covering my whole face. Yeah, they don't like women. This is the problem that they have. It's kind of like a woman phobia. I would basically, they are the most ignorant people, and it's insane. Like, how could you pass the law which women shouldn't be treated by women, but you don't want a female doctor? That's insane. I mean,
yeah.
uh, I feel sad to kind of like be held or run by this kind of oppressive and terrorist regime, by those kind of man, the uncivilized man, and they don't like, even if you look at them, you would be so scared to even look at them. When the Taliban come into the power, I mean, when they come and they occupied my country, because I lived in after the 9/11. I mean, I could tell you that I lived under a kind of like a maybe a half modernized society. And when I saw them for the first time, I was so scared. My brother, he was literally holding my hand that just relax and don't look at them. They were that much scary. And after the occupation, they now do the insane stuff. It's not just prohibiting women from going outside. So women are literally living in a prison in their house, and but basically they do forced marriage as well. One of my friends, she faced forced marriage by the Taliban, and so far she disappeared. I don't know where she is. Is she safe, or is she still at the same situation? I have no idea. She disappeared after that. Once she told me that they forced me to marry with them, but after that she completely disappeared. And even women during these 5 or 6 years on social media, we even saw the videos of how Taliban they raped women, and their videos went viral on social media. So they do forced marriages. They even rape women. It's not just a small part of banning women completely from the society, both from economic aspect and social and political. But they also do these kind of brutal things as well. I mean, they even arrested Afghan female activists. They tortured them. They raped them in their jails, and we have a lot of reports talking about this kind of issue. If you look at and if you go and watch Human Rights Watch, if you go and see the reports of Guardians, BBC World News, New York Times, you could find a lot of stuff about how they arrested these women who did peaceful assemblies in the streets, and who bravely they went outside and in the streets they demanded for their rights. I mean, nobody could do that. I'm even scared. Like when I was in Afghanistan, I never tried to go and be in the streets because I was so scared.
Uh oh.
Rose. I think Tipo had some comments to do.
Yeah.
Can you guys
Well,
hear me?
we're having some connection issues, unfortunately.
I thought it was
Um.
my problem. It's raining here, so the connection dropped somehow, but
Oh
it's
shoot.
there also.
Um. While Lamar tries to reconnect, Debo, was there something you wanted to add to the
Yeah,
conversation?
so yeah, like if she is here, that would be better. Like the thing
Oh.
is, uh, I also had a like in SFL in Bangladesh SFL. Many of after Taliban took over, many of the Afghan students or Afghan girls, they applied for Asian University for Women. It's in my city, so that is funded by America, I guess. Like not the government, but it's a private entity, but it's something like they accept. Yeah, they accept other mm, like they prioritize Afghanistani people, girls basically, mm, as they are in a bad situation rather than the other people. So all of the South Asian or Asian people or girls basically apply to this university. So in Bangladesh also there was a local coordinator who was Afghanistani, who was my friend. Uh, she told me that she left Afghanistan for studying in AW, Asian University for Women, and if she gets back to Afghanistan, she will be arrested because like she's alone. She will have to go alone there, right? Like she came here alone. She will have to go there alone. The regime is Taliban regime, and if she goes there alone, she will get arrested and questioned because there is no male accompanying her. Like every Afghanistani girl should have a male that like that should accompany them.
Now,
Otherwise,
is
they will
that is that just for safety, or is that like an authoritarian rule?
other than rule. Like girls
Authoritarian
don't
rule. Okay, okay. Yeah, not
girls don't get to say anything.
not very fair at all. No.
Exactly. She had to go Iran to actually uh, be in a better state, at least
It's better
from
in Iran. Yeah,
I've
uh,
that's
seen
like
Lamar
comparatively.
posting. I've seen Lamar posting that they are, Iran government is sending Afghan refugees away, sending them back to Afghanistan. We'd like to ask her about it because she's been posting a lot about it. Like it
Mhm.
seems like it's happening now.
Yeah, like in
yeah.
Iran also, they accept Afghanistani women and like Afghanistani people. They don't have that much of a strict rule as compared to Afghanistan, but it's like comparatively a little bit better than Afghanistan because Taliban has some strict rules. Like girls cannot go outside without a male, and there are a lot of other like uh, shitty. I wouldn't say sorry for the bad language, but the thing is, it's bad rules there. So yeah, there are rules even that we find it okay. This can't even. Is she saying all right, or is she saying the right things? But it's happening there. There's that kind of thing also. Lamar would have been better to make us understand that. Also, from we're from Bangladesh. All the South Asian countries had different kind of ethnicities and different kind of cultures. Afghanistan had beautiful musics and beautiful like culture earlier.
Mm,
Like I used to know, I'm from a musical background, so I, like I admired them. But the thing is,
mm,
after the regiment change, or it has been going on for a long time, that it's decaying a lot. Like it's going down. It's non-existent right now. I think
yeah. That's what
like they had a
happens when you lose the freedom. Like
Yeah,
everything
it's censoring.
suffers.
Yeah, with free speech, they think they're just censoring speech, but they're censoring art, scientific discovery,
exactly, exactly.
innovation, everything.
Hmm. Yeah.
Europe got their mind back after Renaissance, but the thing is, everything is chaos in everywhere because of the free speech they are not getting.
Yeah.
Mm, I think she's joining from laptop. I guess.
Okay. Let's see. That would be great if we could. Yeah, it was a shame it just that something reconnected. I don't know. Technical issues. But yeah, I mean, it's oh, hold on.
Oh, can you all
Can you
hear
can
me
you
now?
hear?
Is this okay now?
Yes, you're
Yes.
back. We're so glad you're back. I don't know what that issue was, but so we were just kind of talking about um
Mhm.
just some of the effects of an authoritarian regime and how free speech is so important because when you lose your free speech, excuse me, you lose all these other things,
Mhm.
like your scientific discoveries and your art and culture. What were you
Yeah,
saying about the music, Debo?
even research,
Yeah,
after the Taliban occupation, a lot of these big organizations such as World Value Survey or Freedom House, on all these political indexes, if you could see them, they cannot go Afghanistan, and they could do some political research there, and even like health research. I mean, research
I
related
was
to health and climate change.
I was earlier. I was like saying about Afghanistani music because I'm from musical background. So,
Yeah,
uh, I like really loved Afghanistan music before, but the thing is, I think it's decaying now. I don't see any kind of music being produced or anything right now.
yeah,
Uh,
not
so
really.
that's a sad thing for me to see that okay, the culture
Even
is going away.
as you have mentioned about Afghan music, we have a very beautiful classical and even our music kind of like it kind of combined with Western music as well.
Mhm.
So these in these 2 decades, we had all these important figures, important musical figures, and our well-known singers. They would come in Afghanistan and they were holding or producing these kind of like concerts for people to come and attend, and a lot of people they show a lot of interest. And we had on our national television, it was called Tolo. On Tolo, they have even created a lot of musical contest between young people, so they were coming and giving songs contest, and they were like some kind of like competition. It was called Afghan Voice. It's the same as American Idol. So even on our national holidays, in our New Year's, there was like a lot of concerts and festivals going around, especially in these like Tulo television, and people were watching from all around Afghanistan. Even people were watching these concerts even in exile. I mean, they were watching that live or on television. So, but after the Taliban, of course, they even destroyed musical instruments that were held by these singers or well-known singers. A lot of well-known singers they started to live in exile, or some of them were even killed by producing music or by singing in their homes. So it's not allowed at the current situation. It's not allowed to sing or to dance even. I mean, they were like wear jeans. So it's like all these kind of things are happening, and it's very sad to see that.
Yeah, that sad thing also is like the guitar is like guitar the instrument is like
Yeah,
really popular around the world, but the thing is the origin of guitar is from Afghanistan and Iran region. The thing is that's really setting the place where it's all started, it's going downhill. And
yeah,
yeah, as a musician
yeah.
it's
Even
really sad.
we
I
have
didn't know that. That's really interesting.
even in our country, for the past, like we have a New Year celebration. It's called Nowruz, and Nowruz were always celebrated from the past centuries. So it's all like one of our old, traditional music, a traditional ceremony, a traditional festival that we always celebrate in our country. Uh, when they conquered the country, they banned to celebrate this Nowruz as well. In my first Nowruz, I was in Afghanistan, and I was told by my parents to do not celebrate at this time because the Taliban, the government banned that to celebrate. So
uh,
they were like worse than radical Muslims.
One thing I want to ask is like, do you guys have a differentiation between Sunni Islam and Shia Islam, right?
Yes.
So is it prevalent in Afghanistan also? Like it's a main thing that you guys follow, or Taliban follows, or something? What's the real scenario in Afghanistan?
Well, the majority of religion that we have is Sunni, and Taliban are Sunni Muslims, and they literally target minorities as well. For instance, Shias or our Hazaras. So they did a lot of genocide, not only Taliban but ISIS as well. So they were like killing them. They were doing bomb blasts every day in their areas, and now they every year they have Mahram, or which is called Ashura. which they celebrate in our districts, and they started to celebrate that for a month. But the Taliban, they banned that. They stopped them
Yeah.
to. They literally halt them to celebrate their religious, ceremony at this time.
For the viewers, like I differentiated between Sunni and Shia Islam is because like the Eastern Middle East, basically the Saudi Arabia, then sorry, not Saudi Arabia, then that kind of region is basically Sunni Islam. They follow the Sunni Islam, and Iran. Then I think Iran and what
Even
was
in Iraq, they have like a larger
yeah,
Shia
Shia, yeah,
majority.
they
So
follow the
like
Shia.
for the viewers, just to differentiate between Sunni and Shias, so they have like their own values and they have their own beliefs. The Shia, I mean, they accept Ali, which was an imam, and then the Sunnis they accept Prophet Muhammad. I don't have like any. Just I know like there's a difference between even praying. Um, the Sunnis they pray in my country, especially in with closed hands, but then the Shias they pray with open hands. So if you want to do research about that, go ahead and do research about that. I had like a lot of Shia Muslims; they all have their own beliefs. But in Sunni Islam, they respect Prophet Muhammad a lot. But then in Shia Islam, they have a great respect to Ali as the Imam.
Yeah, the main differentiation basically, like I bought this topic because the Saudi Arabia and the Dubai and all those region, they have affinity towards uh, US or like Western, or actually they are like open to other thoughts. But Shia communities, as far as I know, I might be wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Shia communities kind of like they hate the Western culture and all things. They have their own thing. That's why the conflict started. That's why Iran is not part of the Middle Eastern, uh, like Gulf of Middle East or that sort of thing. So I don't know if it's yeah, I might have wrong information or something, but
Yeah,
Hmm.
I guess like from in my opinion, I guess like Sunni hate like Western a lot in my country than Shias. And these
mm,
2 decades Shia, they have been making a lot of growth in terms of educations, joining STEM, science, and you could see them in all these important platforms. They have been doing a lot of great innovations in my country. So I'm a Sunni as well. I'm a Sunni Muslim, but I saw like these Shias, they have been doing a lot of great stuff. They were always open for Western outfits or Western, help or Western ideologies more than Sunni Muslims, which is great. So this was like, I guess there's a different, there's a big difference in between these two people,
Hmm.
these two groups, and
Yeah.
all from different places.
Yeah. Just we can have a conversation about a few different things, but while I'm here, I'd be interested to hear a little bit of your take around current events, just because this we do try to talk a little bit about the news and current events on this podcast. This is a special episode, but I would be interested in hearing your take in more U.S. intervention in the Middle East and all the I mean, it's a lot, of course, but all the crazy stuff happening right now, and what we could try to narrow it down a little bit because I realize
We
it's a
could
lot.
talk about what you've been posting about what's happening in Iran, that they are basically sending Afghan people away, refugees away. I've seen you posting about it. What is happening actually?
Well, basically, during these 2 decades of war, and then after the war, a lot of our young people they started to immigrate to both Pakistan and Iran because of job opportunities and conflicts, war, and climate disasters. They always immigrated to Iran. And while they were going to Iran, they were brutally harassed and arrested, and they were brutally beaten by Iranian police forces, Iranian police borders. And the Iranian, I mean, they have a very Iranians. We could see them as very like racist people. I mean, it's very bad. It's very disappointed to see a fellow neighborhood the way that they are harassing our young people, especially children or our teenage boys or even girls. So they don't even let them to take admissions into the schools. So after the Taliban occupation, you could see in Afghanistan, women are dealing with a lot of woman phobia, or we literally define them as gender apartheid in the country. So after that, when they started to become a refugee in Iran, they do not even let them to take admission in the schools and universities. And the main reason, the only excuse that they use, which is not even true, that these children they smell bad, which isn't true. uh, they don't want them to even work, or they harass them in streets. And so far we have seen a lot of children, or a lot of people around the age of maybe like 18, or even like lower than 18, above 18. These people who were like teenage or adults, they have been killed by the Iranian people, and they were harassed on the streets. But these days there's a lot of news going on Afghan refugees, which UNCHR also reported about that. Our millions of refugees, they were deported by the Iranian government, but before that they were arrested, they were beaten. Two or three people, like so far there were two one teenage girl and one teenage boy, they were killed by the Iranian people. So there's a lot of harassment for Afghan people. Some of even our Afghans, they themselves, before becoming refugee, they sold their houses in Afghanistan, and then they went and took refuge in Iran, and they bought houses there. But then at this time, before even taking their house, like before even like selling their houses in Iran, or kind of like taking their money from their work supervisors, before even like taking their 1 cent from Iranian government, they were directly sent back to Afghanistan without even their houses stuff, without even selling their properties in Iran, while they had all these legal documents. But before like becoming refugee, of course, I mean, and even after becoming a refugee in Iran, there's a different like the Afghans, they have like minimum wage there. There's a lot of privileges for Iranian people, but but Afghan refugees, they don't have like the same privilege. I mean, there's even like working different working hours for them. For instance, an Iranian can work for maybe 8 hours a day, but an Afghan refugee, they are supposed, or they are forced to work for like maybe 20 hours, or sometimes even like 15 hours. But now, after they were deported from Iran, there's like thousands of refugees in between Iran border and Afghanistan border in Herat province, and there's like millions of them, and you could see these children living under the sun. I mean, they don't have any houses. Before getting an immigrant in Iran, they sold all their houses, and after they went there, they work hard day and night to make a good financial situation, and to kind of like increase their economy and support their family to just survive in a country. But the majority of them, even before taking their money from their supervisors or from their work bosses, they were sent directly back to Afghanistan. So the situation of refugees in both Pakistan and Iran, it's horrible. The same thing the Pakistan also did. Pakistan also sent millions of Afghan refugees. They deported them, they arrest them, and even in both of these our neighborhoods, they even look and search for Afghan refugees in all neighborhoods in all districts. And the people themselves, I mean, it's not just the government. The people also, they don't even show any sympathy for these Afghan refugees. They don't even help them, but they just make a lot of like fraud scam stuff. They take all their money to just harass them more. So there's a lot of harassment towards Afghan refugees happen in all these years, and we are very disappointed by our neighbors. I mean, even when the Israel, I mean, I'm not like in support of Iran, between the Iran and Israel war, and I have no sympathy to Iran. I'm sorry to say that, but like they were the one who brought. Uh, I mean, they're just an evil people. I mean, yeah, the Iranian government and the Iranian people as well. When there was war happened to Iran, a lot of our Afghans, unfortunately, while a lot of us in exile, we were telling Afghan people to do not give them shelter again, because in these 2 decades they never help us, but just they add more salt in our pain. But when there was war happening in Iran, a lot of Afghan people, they gave them shelter. They opened their houses for them. Even they opened the border in Herat just to invite more refugees from Iran, which it shouldn't happen. And after that, we saw this catastrophe that happened to our Afghan refugees. And after this, like we learned our lesson. When we have like no sympathy, we don't even want to have any tie or relation with the Iran. And Iran was, of course, a big supporter of Taliban too.
Yeah. Well, sorry to interrupt. I just have to leave for a prior engagement about now. Um but it was really great talking to you, Lamar. Really interesting hearing your perspective and your story, and the mission that you're working on now. It sounds like a great mission that you're inspiring a lot of Afghan women to embrace the principles of liberty and human rights. Um, but yeah, I will let one of you guys finish off and sign off the podcast. But thank you.
My pleasure, Asher. Nice to meet you.
Well, sure.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, share.
Bye.
We're almost
Okay.
left.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any comments? I don't know, Debo, if you want to comment anything.
No, it was like really a lot to take in because from our perspective, in our own perspective, like obviously US is much in a better place in terms of free speech. Then Bangladesh is also in a good place compared to Afghanistan. But the thing is, like, the hearing from real survivors or real people who have been through those kind of experiences is kind of a different experience. And I have seen, like, I have friends from Afghanistan who came from Afghan to AUW. AUW as in Asian University for Women in Bangladesh. It's in my city. And they like, we have a lot of local coordinators also from like AUW, and they were Afghanistani, and they are we heard from their side also that these are the things that happened. And so it's a different kind of experience to hear all of this again. And I really hope and pray that you uh, inspire more girls to like follow the free speech movement. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely. I have been inspiring. I hope they are inspired by this movement of free speech, and we value the movement of free speech more than anybody in this earth. We know the value, we know the worth of free speech, how important is free speech, and all over the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so inspiring, and it's great that you're doing this work here in the US so other people can also help. You don't have to be an Afghan person to actually help in this situation. There's a lot of organizations like Lamar's organization that teach women in Afghanistan. A lot of them are eager to learn, to do something, to learn English, art, math, anything that you want to contribute. There's a lot of non-profits that are doing this work of teaching them online. So you can be a good part of their day fighting against all this censorship, all this oppression.
Yes, definitely. And I would definitely start a new movement as well. It's called Liberty Youth and Women Initiative. That would be supported and funded by Students for Liberty in September. So if you're a college student or if you're an adult from all over the world, you can join our Liberty movement. And we would have a lot of in person events and activities all around the United States. In different states, we would definitely start that on September. But if you're a young person and obsessed with free speech and liberty, especially if you want to help Afghan women, you're welcome to join our movement.
And what's the best way to contact you if someone wants to join, someone wants to help with your
Well,
organization?
they can search for my LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm available on LinkedIn and Instagram. You can send me a connection, and the best way, or you can email me at this email. I will provide my email address at the comment as well. I'm not sure if you could see that, but that's my email
No
address.
worries. We'll put it in under the description.
Yes,
Yeah.
just put it under the description. That's my email address, and I'm available on social media as well. You can support my work there. You can connect me via LinkedIn, and then I can take you and guide you on how to become a part of these movements and how can you support Afghan women.
That's really great. I think we are almost end of the time, I guess. Thanks a lot, Lamart, I guess,
My pleasure.
for all of the experiences that you shared. And I know it has been hard, but and we really appreciate that you sharing your thoughts with us and with everybody. And hopefully, with your view process and thought process, I guess more girls and more people will be interested in free speech and maybe follow the path that you are on, Marcelo.
Thank you so much,
Yes.
Deepa.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching another episode of the Non Aggression Podcast. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Marcella and Deepa, for inviting me. Thank you, Marcella.
Of
Bye
course.
bye.
Bye.